Chicago, 1940. That night, the wind wasn't just passing through the city, it was disturbing it. The cold air coming from Lake Michigan was squeezing between the buildings, rising through the narrow streets with a hollow howl. Gas lamps flickered, their light unable to settle in one place. Chicago nights were never truly calm. But that night, the city felt like it was hiding something, and whatever it was hiding was about to surface. Detective Edgar Blackwood was sitting at his desk. It was past midnight. The ticking of the wall clock echoed through the room, each second growing heavier than the last. Despite the stack of files on his desk, Edgar wasn't focused on any of them. He was looking outside, watching the streets. He was listening. Because a city tells its own story. Most people can't perceive it, but Edgar had learned this over the years. When something changes, the city goes quiet first. When the phone rang, Edgar didn't flinch. He simply picked it up slowly.
Blackwood.
The voice on the other end was short, official, and stripped of unnecessary detail.
South Side, Harlow Residence. Room 312, a woman, dead.
Edgar's gaze shifted toward the window.
How?
Well, that's the thing.
The line went dead. Edgar held the receiver in his hand for a few seconds, then slowly placed it back. He stood up, put on his coat, took his hat, and stepped outside. The Chicago night air hit his face, cold, sharp, and awakening. Footsteps echoed beneath the streetlights, bouncing through the emptiness. There were people, yes, but no one looked at anyone else. Everyone was in a hurry. Everyone was trying to get somewhere. Or trying to get away from something. By the time he reached Harlow Residence, the building already looked tired from a distance. Its bricks were darkened. Some windows were completely black, others dimly lit with a pale yellow glow, but none of them felt alive. This wasn't a place to live. It was a place to wait. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The lobby was small and suffocating. The ceiling was low. The air was cool and heavy. In one corner, an old radio crackled softly, though no one was listening. The yellow light drained the color out of everything. An old man sat behind the reception desk. His eyes shifted toward Edgar, but there was no welcoming expression on his face.
Detective.
There was no relief in his voice. More like the quiet comfort of something no longer being his problem.
Upstairs, 312.
Edgar nodded. But before leaving, he glanced at the man's hands. They kept rubbing against each other. He was nervous. But he didn't look afraid. More like someone trying not to remember something. The stairs creaked loudly. Every step made a sound, but what was strange was this. The sounds lasted longer than they should have, as if the building didn't want to let them go. When he reached the third floor, the hallway felt narrower. The air was colder and quieter. The door to room 312 was open. Edgar stopped. He stood there for a few seconds, doing nothing but staring at the doorway. Because experience had taught him this. Sometimes before you enter a room, the room becomes aware of you. Low voices came from inside, police, but beneath those voices, there was something else, silence, but this silence was not empty. Edgar stepped inside. The room was small. A bed, a small table, a chair, and a window. Everything was in its place, but nothing felt right. A woman lay on the bed. Mary Anderson. Her eyes were open. She was staring at the ceiling. But she wasn't truly focused on it. She had seen something. One last thing. Edgar slowly approached. He leaned toward her face. Her lips were slightly parted, as if she was about to say something, but chose not to.
Name?
Mary Anderson, 31, checked in yesterday.
Cause of death?
The officer paused after a brief glance, then shook his head.
None.
What do you mean, none?
No trauma, no blood, no strangulation, no poison. There's nothing.
Edgar looked at the woman again. This was wrong. Because a person does not simply die for no reason, and if there is death, the room always knows. Edgar slowly stood up. And for the first time, he truly looked at the room, not just to see, but to understand. And in that moment, he realized something. The room wasn't empty. Nothing was missing. On the contrary, something was extra, and that thing was no longer visible. But it was still there. The room still held onto its silence. One of the officers was standing by the window. The other was taking notes at the foot of the bed. Both were doing their jobs. But Edgar understood that they hadn't noticed anything, because they were focused on the crime scene. Edgar, on the other hand, was looking at the room. And those two things were very different. He slowly walked toward the center of the room. The sound of his shoes on the wooden floor echoed against the narrow walls. He waited in silence for a moment. One of the officers broke it.
What's strange, Detective?
Edgar didn't answer, because he needed to feel it first. The room was orderly. Too orderly. There was no disturbance on the bed. The chair was in its place. The glass of water on the table hadn't been knocked over. There had been no struggle. No sign of panic, but that didn't mean comfort. Sometimes the quietest places are the loudest ones. Edgar crouched beside the bed. The woman's right hand rested near the edge. Her fingers were slightly curled, as if she had tried to reach for something in her final moment, but had caught nothing. Edgar looked at the edge of the bed. There were thin lines on the wooden surface. They were scratch marks. Fingernail marks, not very deep, but they were there.
Did you notice this?
Looks new.
New, and not meaningless.
Mary had tried to get up before she died. She had seen something. Something had made her afraid. But she hadn't had time to scream. Edgar stood up, turned toward the wall. The wall by the head of the bed was dirtier than the others. At first, it looked ordinary. But when the light hit it from the side, details began to emerge. There were faint smudges on the paint, marks left by human touch. Edgar took a handkerchief from his pocket and gently wiped the surface. Dust spread into the air, and the lines became clearer. At first glance, they seemed random, but they weren't. The marks concentrated in a single spot. Someone's fingers had pressed against the wall in panic, and then slid downward.
The woman. She held on to this right before she died.
Why?
Edgar looked at the marks. He didn't know the answer yet, but his instinct told him this. These weren't marks made to call for help. These marks were pointing to something. He carefully moved along the wall. The finger smears stretched from the bed toward the window. There was a direction. Edgar turned toward the window. The lock was secured from the inside. The glass looked intact.
She didn't try to escape.
Then suddenly, he paused. There was a small mark on the window frame, a circular metallic scrape. Edgar ran his finger over it. Metal. A ring. Someone had leaned against the window, and the ring on their hand had scraped the wood. This was the first real evidence that someone else had been in the room.
She wasn't alone,
But there's no sign of a forced entry.
because no one forced their way in.
The room fell silent again. Edgar moved toward the table. There was a glass on it, half full. Beside it stood a small bottle. Cheap whiskey.
Get fingerprints.
Then he looked for a second glass. He didn't find one. That made him pause. If Mary had been drinking with someone, there should have been 2 glasses, but there was only one, which meant the visitor hadn't drunk anything. That meant the visitor hadn't planned to stay long. A short conversation. A brief encounter. And then death. Edgar opened the suitcase. The woman's belongings were neatly arranged. Her clothes were carefully folded. A small makeup bag, a book, and a leather wallet. Inside the wallet, he found a train ticket from Milwaukee to Chicago, dated 2 days ago. There was also a small folded note. Edgar opened it. "You're late. I'm still here." Beneath it, there was only a single letter. Oh, this wasn't a threat. This was waiting. Mary had come to meet someone, and that person had been late, but had eventually arrived. One of the officers asked,
Who is L?
We'll find out.
Then he looked back at the bed. Mary's face looked almost clouded, but the fear was still there. And Edgar noticed something. Her gaze wasn't fixed on the ceiling. It was toward the door. She had been looking at the door when she died, which meant death hadn't started inside the room. It had started when the door opened. Someone she knew had walked in. At first, she had felt relief, but moments later, she had felt fear. The transition had been fast. Edgar took a deep breath.
This wasn't chaos. This was a confrontation.
And confrontations create the most dangerous kinds of murders. Edgar walked toward the window. He slightly pulled the curtain aside. A narrow street could be seen outside. Rain had just started. Thin droplets clung to the glass, and in that moment, he noticed a faint mark at the lower part of the window. It wasn't a fingerprint. It was lipstick. Mary had approached the window, maybe to call for help, maybe to gather her thoughts, but then she had felt someone come up behind her. Edgar closed his eyes tightly. He reconstructed the scene in his mind. The door opens. Mary turns. A man she knows steps inside. They begin to talk. Voices rise. Mary steps back, moves toward the window. The man keeps approaching. Fear grows. And then, without a scream, her heart stops. Edgar opened his eyes.
He killed her with fear.
You mean a heart attack?
Yes,
Does that count as murder?
if fear was used as a weapon. Then yes.
The silence in the room deepened once again. Edgar took his hat, walked toward the door.
Now, find me everyone in Mary Anderson's life whose name starts with L.
Because the room had spoken, and this was its message. The killer walked in through the door. When morning came, Chicago was gray. The sun was there, but it couldn't be seen. Behind the clouds, it was as if it had decided not to approach the city. For Edgar Blackwood, this was an ordinary morning, because some cases don't like daylight. There was only one thing on his desk, a folded note. "You're late. I'm still here." Oh. Edgar lit his cigarette. Smoke slowly drifted into the air. And he began to think. Oh, a name. But not just an ordinary name, a connection, a past, a reason. Mary Anderson had come to Chicago to see someone. This person was important. Important enough that she had to wait for them. Important enough that they could frighten her. Edgar opened the file. Mary's past was short, but complicated. Different cities, short-term jobs. But certain names kept reappearing, and 3 of them started with L. 1. Louis Carter, former fiancé. 2. Leonard Pike, nightclub pianist. 3. Luke Halpern, real estate agent. Edgar stood up, took his hat.
Let's see. Which one the room recognized?
Louis Carter. Carter's office was in the city center. High ceilings, luxurious, but lacking a soul. When Edgar walked in, the first thing he noticed was this. The man looked tense, but there was no fear on his face.
Detective, this is an early visit.
Mary Anderson.
The name hung in the air. Carter's jaw tightened.
An old matter.
How long ago?
6 months.
Did you know she came to Chicago?
No.
The answer came quickly, too quickly. But Edgar focused on something else. The man's eyes. People who lie either avoid eye contact or stare too much. Carter did neither.
Where were you last night?
Here.
Any witnesses?
No.
Did you still love her?
Carter didn't answer, but his eyes softened for a brief moment. That was enough. Edgar made his decision. This man wouldn't have killed Mary because some people hate. But they don't kill. Edgar turned his back.
If you're lying, I'll be back.
Carter didn't respond. But Edgar had already gotten his answer. Leonard Pike, the nightclub, was still open. The curtains were closed. Inside, time felt frozen. The sound of the piano echoed through the empty room. Leonard Pike was playing. When Edgar walked in, the man didn't stop. Not until Edgar stood beside him.
Mary Anderson.
She was a beautiful woman.
When did you last see her?
Years ago.
Lie.
Leonard paused. His eyes locked onto Edgar. Then he took a deep breath.
A few months ago.
Last night?
I was here.
Any witnesses?
I played all night.
The club owner confirmed it. So did the waiters. The alibi was solid. But Edgar still asked.
What was between you?
Bad timing.
What does that mean?
When we loved each other. We were both in the wrong lives.
Edgar thought. That statement was true, and true statements don't usually end in murder. But Edgar noticed something else. The man's hands, clean. Too clean.
Were you here last night?
Yes.
Edgar nodded. This wasn't it either, but the room had said something else. Luke Halpern, the real estate office, was silent, too silent. Everything was in order, files aligned, desk spotless. This kind of order comes from a need for control. The door opened. Luke Halpern walked in.
Detective?
He said with a smile, but that smile didn't quite fit his face. Edgar took the key out of his pocket, placed it on the desk.
Recognize it?
Halpern looked at it, paused for a moment. Then,
Yes, rental apartment.
Did Mary Anderson rent that place?
Yes.
Did you see her last night?
that question was as heavy as the silence of the room. Halpern hesitated before answering, a short moment. But enough.
No.
That's interesting.
What is...
Because the room told me something different.
Silence. Halpern's fingers touched the desk, trying to maintain control.
What did it say?
She wasn't alone. And that person scraped his ring against the window frame.
The man's hand moved toward his coat pocket instinctively. That was the mistake. Edgar stood up.
Take off your ring.
What?
Now.
Halpern froze, but Edgar didn't back down, and finally, the man took off his ring, gold, worn edges. Edgar took it, held it to the light. Scratches. The same scratches in the room.
I didn't kill her. I just went there to talk.
About what?
Money. And some things...
What kind of things?
Things she wasn't supposed to know.
Mary had found out about Halpern's fraudulent real estate schemes, scams, fake sales. She had threatened him.
She was going to go to the police.
And then?
She started shouting,
And you?
I stepped closer. Then she stopped. Her heart stopped. I didn't even touch her.
Wrong. You did.
No.
Not with a weapon. With fear.
For a moment, the room came alive again. The door opens. Mary walks in. Trust, then suspicion, then fear. And that fear kills her. As the officers took Halpern away, Edgar looked toward the window. Rain had started. The droplets sliding down the glass reminded him of the marks in the room. Edgar took the note out of his pocket. You're late. Yes, Halpern had been late, but Mary had already realized who he was. and that's why she was afraid. Edgar thought about the room one last time. The body hadn't spoken, but the room had revealed everything.